Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. Today, we have a big show for you. The NBA tipped off last night. We'll go over the two big games that took place, with history taking place with LeBron James and his son, Bronny, sharing the court for the first time in a real-life NBA game. We'll also talk about the Knicks getting absolutely boat raced by the defending champion Boston Celtics, a massive trade that took place in the NFL as well as a smaller one, and what is to come with the trade deadline rapidly approaching. And of course, it's Wednesday, so we are going to do our rookie report, our Week 7 rookie report in the NFL. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 23rd. But like I was saying, we are going to start off our show here in the NFL talking a little bit about the massive trade that took place between the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs for the third season in a row. For the third season since they traded away Tyreek Hill, the Kansas City Chiefs have traded in season for a new wide receiver. We all knew this was going to happen, right? We all knew after they lost all of their wide receivers to injury, Juju Smith-Schuster to a hamstring earlier this week, obviously Rashee Rice, they lost earlier this season, and then they lost Hollywood Brown earlier on before the season even began. Those are their top three guys, all of them gone. Now they have to rely on wide receivers like Justin Watson, who I like Justin Watson. He's not really a wide receiver you want to have to rely on. Now they go out and they get DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans. The Titans trade DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs in exchange for a conditional 4th-round pick. The condition here is if the Chiefs, make the Super Bowl and DeAndre Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps. So this is going to change the face of the league a little bit. DeAndre Hopkins obviously is not the top 5, top 3, top 10 receiver that he was back in his prime when he was with the Texans, when he was with the Cardinals, even a couple years ago when he first joined up with the Tennessee Titans. He is not that elite number 1, you can't guard me receiver anymore, but still he has a lot of juice left. You see flashes of it with the Titans. That Titans offense just does not have what it takes to, get the ball out to its star receivers like that. He's a little older. He's looking for a ring. I'm sure he wanted out. This is a win-win for both teams. The Titans obviously are in sell tank mode, right? They also traded away linebacker Ernest Jones. Ernest Jones, who has 44 tackles on the season, 29 solo tackles, has been really good for them. They traded a 5th and a 6th-round pick to the Rams to get him just a couple of months ago. Now they flip him to the Seahawks for a 4th-round pick, and they get a linebacker back. So that is a huge trade. We will get to that one in a second, but they flipped their assets. They did one of those love it or list it kind of things with the houses where they buy a house, fix it up, sell it for a profit. It's what they did. They went and flipped a linebacker, right? And that's something you don't see too often. But getting back to DeAndre Hopkins here, the Titans are in sell mode. The Titans are very much in sell mode. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for an aging veteran who wants to get a ring, wants to win a Super Bowl, to spend the rest of his career on the sidelines of a team that isn't going to compete. We saw it last week. I think losing that game to the Bills without Will Levis really did put the final nail in the coffin that said, hey, we aren't going to be competing. Not that they were seriously thinking about competing, but I thought maybe if Mason Rudolph was able to show them something against the Bills, then maybe they would hold off on selling a little bit. But with the trade deadline approaching, just 2 weeks away at this point, election day, trade deadline the same day. So that's a big day here in the US. But they've made their decision. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they desperately needed a weapon, right? The Chiefs coming in here needed a weapon. They needed to go and get a guy that can help propel that offense forward. We've seen a lot of struggle from that offense recently. We've seen that offense go from one of the most terrifying in the league the last couple of years to one where Patrick Mahomes is throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. They're relying on the run game more than the pass game. This is the opposite. This is not what you expect out of a Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid-led offense. They need to get that weapon. Now, they've proven it hasn't really mattered because they've won these games, right? They're the only undefeated team left in the NFL. They've won these games, but they have yet to play a complete game of football. That defense has been elite. That defense has been, in my opinion, the best defensive unit in the entire league. And that's the reason that they're winning games. Patrick Mahomes is able to make the mistakes that he has been making, be as carefree with the ball as he has been because of how good that defense on the other side of that ball, that Steve Spagnuolo defense, has been these last couple of years. That is a luxury that most quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes' position do not have. And I'm sure he's grateful for it. I'm sure he knows. But getting DeAndre Hopkins here can only help this team. DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to be a burner down the sideline, and they don't need him to be a burner down the sideline. They need a guy that was playing that Rashee Rice role, that Travis Kelce role, as Travis Kelce continues to age a little bit out of what his role is and not be that dominant go-to guy every single game, right? They need a guy that's going to take those skinny posts, those 5-yard slants, those quick outs, just get those quick 0 to 10 yard catches, catch the ball, maybe make something happen after, get some yak going, but that's not the main job. The main is to get those quick throws, get the offense moving a little bit, get some confidence in the passing game, soften up the defense so they step up, and then hit them over the top with, a Mecole Hardman down the sideline or something like that, a Xavier Worthy down the sideline. Xavier Worthy is that home run hitter. They just need that guy that's going to dink and dunk and get you those medium short routes that they have been missing in this offense. Kareem Hunt has been playing great in the absence of Isaiah Pacheco these last couple of weeks. They can continue to rely on the run game. But the Chiefs need, they really do, if they want to go for a three-peat here, as good as they have been, as consistent as they have been winning, the only undefeated team, they need to get that switch flipped quickly, because they cannot continue, especially in the playoff time, they can't continue to play games like this and expect to win. They faced arguably their two toughest tests of the season in weeks 1 and 2. And I think that really helped because the Ravens and the Bengals weren't ready. Not that the Bengals are that super crazy threat that a lot of people that I know I expected them to be this year, but still, the Ravens especially, you see how good they are right now. 5 winners of 5 straight games. Someone on their team has won Offensive Player of the Week in the AFC 4 straight weeks. They are looking like an unstoppable machine over there with the Ravens, but the Chiefs caught them early when they weren't quite ready, when they weren't quite in their rhythm, when Derrick Henry hadn't quite gotten all of that offense together yet. But now, if they were to play, I think that game goes a little differently. So they cannot play the way that they have been against some of these title contending teams, against some of these teams that you expect to be someone that you're going to have to go through on route to a Super Bowl. We already went through the Chiefs' schedule. They don't have too many of those games left. Maybe the Texans. But you go out and you add that extra element in the pass game, that is going to expand not only your offensive ability through the air, but also it's going to help with the run game. Right now, teams, they're not loading the box because it's Patrick Mahomes, but they feel a little more comfortable playing a slightly stronger box against the Chiefs, because the pass game just is not working. They don't have that kind of weapon right now. And if they can fix that, if they can get back to what Rashee Rice was doing before he went down with his injury, and I think that's the perfect role for DeAndre Hopkins to play. I think this is going to work out great for both parties. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't very happy in Tennessee, I'm sure, not winning. He now gets a chance to get a ring. And for the Chiefs, they get a much needed weapon. This is by far the best receiver that they've traded for. By far. In 2022, they traded for Kadarius Toney, right? That one looked like it was working out, and then we all know what happened to Kadarius Toney, no longer on an NFL roster because he could not catch the ball, right? These are the things that these are the things that they need. They need that guy that's going to come in and add an extra layer of offense, add an extra oomph to that team. And I think this is a huge move. This is a great move for the Chiefs. I'm scared for the rest of the NFL. No one has been able to stop them yet, and they're only getting better. But let me know what you think of this move. I think this is great for the Chiefs. It's not going to throw them into a whole nother stratosphere, but I think this helps them immensely. Hopkins isn't all that he was, but he still has the skills to do everything that the Chiefs need him to. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we continue our NFL coverage. There's been some more news, some more rumors around the trade deadline. We're going to talk about some teams, some players that might get moved or might make a move. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient. Hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing. Sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the news it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the massive trade that took place in the NFL last night. DeAndre Hopkins, officially a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, making him the third receiver in 3 years to get traded midseason to those Chiefs, the most impactful one by far. In this segment, we continue our NFL coverage, turning our attention to the trade deadline that takes place just about 2 weeks from now on November 5th. We talk about some players that have been rumored to be traded, where they might go, if they're going to get traded at all, and some teams that might make a move. But before we get into all of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everything. I appreciate everyone for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 23rd. But like I was saying, in this segment, we continue our NFL coverage, continuing our trade deadline coverage as these trades just continue to come in. This has been one of the more active trade deadlines in recent memory. We've seen now 3 big wide receiver moves already, and we're still a couple of weeks out from the deadline. When we're looking at teams that might still make a move, we are looking at teams near the top that have some weaknesses. A team, for instance, like the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are a team that have been really good. There's no question about it. They've been really good all season long, but the games that they have lost have been against these true contenders. They lost to the Vikings earlier this season. They just lost to the Packers, and while they were able to take down the Bills, that has been their best win, and the Bills at that point, I still wouldn't consider the Bills as true contenders. Every single time that they have come face to face with a team that I would categorize as a contender, they have gotten they haven't won. I wouldn't say they've gotten dispatched, but they haven't won. This is a Texans team that has one glaring weakness, and it's the offensive line. The offensive line, if there's going to be a trade to happen around an offensive lineman, we're looking at the Texans to go and make it. Now, is there a team that's going to be selling on an offensive lineman? I'm sure you could find one. It's a little rare for offensive linemen to get traded like that, though. So I'm not expecting that kind of move to happen, although the Texans could be in the market for something along those lines. If we're looking for a position that does get traded a lot more, it goes with with a team or with a position like wide receiver. We've already seen 3 wide receivers get traded to this point, that being Davante Adams to the Jets, that being now DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, and of course, Amari Cooper to the Bills. There's been lots of rumors surrounding a guy like Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp with the Rams is a trade that to be completely honest with you, don't get at all. The Rams are in a position where they have an aging quarterback in Matthew Stafford. They're in a position where, because of the situation that their division is in, sitting at 2-4, they are not out of it. The 49ers have had an uncharacteristically bad season, and right now, the team at the top of that division are the 4-3 Seahawks. They are just 2 games back, not even 1.5 games back, of the Seattle Seahawks right now, sitting at 2-4, while the Seahawks are 4-3. This is a big game on Thursday. You get Cooper Kupp back healthy, and you're still in the division race. It does not make any sense to me for now to be the time that the Rams are selling. If anything, the Rams are a team that will continue to kick the can down the road and say, we need to try and compete while we have this window open. You look at the future of that Rams team, there is nothing. It's pretty barren, and I don't think that's an understatement to say. They are going to compete as long as they have Matthew Stafford. We don't know how much longer Matthew Stafford has, but they're not going to trade away some of their best assets, or at least it wouldn't make a lot of sense to me for them to trade away some of their best assets in Cooper Kupp, guys like that, while Stafford is still there and playing good football, and while they're still in catching range of that division, of the playoffs. It doesn't make any sense for them. But if they were to make a trade, it sounds like it's Cooper Kupp, and I don't think that makes any sense at all. If we're looking at a team that might make a desperation play, we've seen the Jets make it twice. Maybe we see a team like the Dolphins go out and try to try to get back into that race. We talk about divisions that have been way underachieving. Currently the Bills are at the top of that division right now, sitting at a pretty comfortable 5-2. Right? 5-2. The Dolphins, while they have not been very good, 2-5, still have 1 game left against the Bills. They lost earlier this season. If they want to make a move to try and get back into playoff contention with Tua coming back into the mix, supposedly this week, maybe they go out and make a trade for some of those defensive ends that are supposedly on the market. We don't know what's going on in Dallas with Micah Parsons. We don't know if he's going to resign. He's going to be a free agent after this year. Will he go out? Will he be a guy that is on the market for a trade? Max Crosby's name has been in the news cycle, whether it be towards the Lions, who lost Aiden Hutchinson. I don't see him getting traded, but with the way that the Raiders are going right now, I don't think it's a non-factor either. Maybe the Dolphins, maybe the Lions make a move for a guy like that. Outside of that, there's always lots of small moves. The Panthers are probably going to be sellers at the deadline once again. Maybe we see a team that has, in a weird situation at quarterback. Maybe the Dolphins make a trade. Again, talking about the Dolphins a little bit here. Maybe they make a trade for Bryce Young on the cheap, make him be a backup down there, although he will be starting this week for the Panthers. So we'll see a little bit of him after Andy Dalton and his family got into a car crash earlier this week, hoping thoughts and prayers over to him against the Broncos. Maybe we see a team like that make a big move. Not very confident in a lot of these to happen. I think the trade deadline is going to start to quiet down a little bit, but another team that could be in the market for a receiver, a guy like Deontay Johnson, that's not going to be super expensive, is the 49ers. They've just lost all of their weapons, and they don't want a guy that's going to be super expensive. Maybe they trade for a Mike Williams or something. Maybe the 49ers go out and get another weapon for just this season, a rental receiver, to see if they can turn this season around and compete while they really still have their window wide open. But there are plenty of moves that can still be made in this trade deadline, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Just about 2 weeks to go. The NFL is heating up. It is going to be a lot of fun to follow the rest of the year. Let me know who you think is going to get traded, which teams you expect to make a move. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're finishing up our NFL coverage. We're talking all about the rookies. The NFL Week 7 rookie report coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
Daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. Excuse me. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over some predictions for the NFL trade deadline that takes place in just about 2 weeks, as well as going over the two massive trades that took place from the Titans this afternoon. In this segment, we finish up our NFL coverage. We talk all about the NFL rookie reports, as we do every single Wednesday. We pick out the top 5 offensive rookie performances, and we break them down. This week, not going to lie to you, there were only a handful of rookies that I thought had really good games. We're going to talk about all of them and give you our top 5. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 23rd. But like I was saying, in this segment, we finish off our NFL coverage before we finish off our show with the NBA, talking all about the rookies. The Week 7 NFL rookie report is here, and as always, I have picked out my top 5 rookies of the week, but we got more than that. We had some rookies that made their first NFL appearances, and we're going to start over there. In garbage time, we got to see just a little bit of Michael Penix, and he didn't do much. 1 for 1 for 14 yards, but he's got the best completion percentage in the history of the NFL right now. 1,000%. You can't get any better than that. Obviously, it was in garbage time. It wasn't a particularly crazy throw, super high level of difficulty, but he went in there, made a guy miss, extended the play, found a guy down the sideline, and got a little bit of yak there. So congratulations to Michael Penix on getting in the game. He's a guy that I really do like. Now, we need to see more of him, but he's probably not going to get into too much action for at least the next 2 years. So it's good to see him out there, even if it's just in garbage time, completing a pass against the Seahawks. If this continues out, he's going to be a good quarterback. I liked what I saw in very, very limited, very, very limited action out of Michael Penix. A couple other guys that didn't play enough or didn't put up the stats to make the top 5. Jaden Daniels obviously was on pace to have an awesome game. In just the first series of the game, 2 completions for 6 yards, not too great, but he also broke out like a 40-yard run. He rushed the ball 3 times for 50 yards. He was on pace for a monster game. Unfortunately, he gets hurt, and it doesn't seem like he's going to play this week against Caleb Williams and the Bears, who were on a bye week this week, so none of those Bears rookies are on this list as well. The other one, Spencer Rattler, did not have a good game. He gets a chance, probably his last chance to start this week Spencer Rattler probably gets his last chance to start this week as well when the Saints take on the Chargers on the road here. But like I was saying, he didn't have his greatest game. 2 fumbles, 1 returned for a touchdown, 172 yards. And then the receivers were a little bit disappointing. Marvin Harrison, 3 for 21, dropped a huge pass that would have meant a lot for this team as they continued down as they went for a comeback win. They ended up winning anyway, but he wasn't super impactful on that game. Now we get to our top 5. And I'm going to start off with another receiver, Malik Neighbors, coming back from a extended concussion break, 2 weeks off after suffering what looked like a pretty bad concussion against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. The Giants' offense just was bad. He was by far the best part of that offense, as is expected, but he still didn't do much. 4 catches, 41 yards, didn't get targeted enough. And I know that's kind of crazy to say because he basically leads the league in targets right now, or at least all rookies, but he's been playing really good football. He needs to get the ball he needs to get looked at a little more, and that didn't happen in this Eagles game. That Giants offensive line is terrible, and I don't think he's going to have a huge factor going forward, especially without Andrew Thomas in the game. But the rookie performances weren't great this week, so he gets to be that number 5 overall offensive rookie this week. At number 4, it's a fellow rookie, Keon Coleman. He got bumped to that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 role with the addition of Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper comes in, has a good game, catches a touchdown, but Keon Coleman paces everyone on that team for yards, 4 for 125. He's a guy that's going to make all of those contested catches. He doesn't great at making separation, which has been the knock on him all the way through college, but still, I like him with Josh Allen. He's going to be a guy that'll go up and get the ball. Josh Allen is a guy that's not scared to put the ball, give his guys a 50-50 shot, and Keon Coleman is a guy that I trust to go and make those catches a lot of the time. Keon Coleman, 4 for 125 in this game, his best game of his young career so far. He's only going to get better as time continues. And as we hit our top 3, this is where we start to get the actual good performances. At number 3 for the Week 7 Rookie Report, we're putting on Bo Nix, and I know that I have been known to be a Bo Nix hater, honestly, and still, it doesn't change. He didn't have his greatest game. There's a lot of things that he did wrong, but there's a lot of things he did right. Namely, he didn't turn the ball over. And when you're looking at a quarterback that has the play style of Bo Nix, the guy that isn't going to make those big plays on his own, a guy that isn't going to, change the game, he's going to be a lot more of a game manager type than a lot of these other rookie quarterbacks. He's not turning the ball over, and that is the most important thing. He's also been able to get a lot of important yards on the ground. Bo Nix, 10 for 75 on the ground. He's basically leading his team in rushing almost every single week. Now, Javonte Williams finally had a good week on the ground this week, so he didn't pace the team this week. But still, 10 for 75, fun. Good performance. They didn't let him knee down. I think that's a fun little thing. He didn't lose his rushing stats there. I think that's a fun thing that Sean Payton did over there. As far as in the air, again, he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't make the mistakes, but he didn't do anything great. 16 for 26, 164 yards. Not the greatest performance, but with the rookie crop as it is this week, with Caleb Williams and the Bears not on a bye, Jaden Daniels getting hurt, and the receivers kind of having an off day, he gets that number 3 spot, the 3rd best rookie of the week. At number 2, I had a little bit of a fight here between number 2 and number 1. I ultimately settled on Brian Thomas Jr. getting that number 2 spot as far as rookies go. He went 5 for 89 with a touchdown, 2 rushes for 2 yards on the ground, not getting very much on those end arounds there, but still, Brian Thomas had a great game. He hasn't been the best rookie receiver, but he's been the most consistent rookie receiver. He hasn't missed time like Malik Neighbors has, which you can't really blame him for that. But unlike Marvin Harrison Jr., who hasn't really missed much time, only half a game with that concussion he suffered early on in the half of week 6. He has consistently been that number one option. He has all of the top stats of this rookie receiver class outside of targets from Malik Neighbors, because Malik Neighbors is just that whole offense. He goes 5 for 89. Again, a huge play down the middle of the field, deep with great coverage. He's able to out physical Christian Gonzalez, who is a very good corner on a not so good Patriots defense. This is a receiver who's continuing to grow, and I think should be in conversation for the best receiver in this rookie class, the way that he has consistently been playing and has really stepped up as the number one in that Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver room. And that leaves us with number 1. The number 1 rookie this week goes to a guy who made his second career start, Drake May. Drake May, 26 for 37, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns to go along with 18 yards on the ground. He's doing great things. He has a stat. He is the first quarterback through his first 2 games to do what he's done for over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, other than Dan Marino in his career. That is a ridiculous person to be compared to, especially when you're 0-2 in your first 2 starts. He has been awesome. He didn't turn the ball over. He was able to push the ball downfield, which is really what the Patriots and what I have been looking for when we're talking about evaluating Drake May. Drake May has been a revolution for these Patriots. This is exactly what you needed from him. You don't expect him to win. You don't expect him to come out and win every single game with the state of that team, but still, he gives this team hope. He gives this team an ability or a reason to believe that they can be competitive in these games at least. And that is a huge, huge thing. Drake May is the number 1 rookie of the week. As we turn our attention over to rookie of the year for offense, it still looks like it's Jaden Daniels, at least in my opinion. Now, the question of his health is going to come into factor here because Caleb Williams has only gotten better every single week. And it doesn't seem like Jaden Daniels is going to play this week, so we're robbed of a Jaden Daniels-Caleb Williams matchup, which sucks because that was one that was circled on a lot of people's calendars heading into this game, heading into this week. Caleb Williams, I think, is still second. He's not even that far behind. If Jaden Daniels misses like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even if he just misses this week, with the Washington defense in the state it is, I'm sure Caleb Williams can have a monster game and might even be able to jump Jaden Daniels if he doesn't play this week. It's that close of a race right now. It should be good down the stretch if Jaden Daniels doesn't miss too much time. But keep an eye out for some of those receivers. Brian Thomas, not too far behind. I don't think Bo Nix really has a shot at it. Maybe if Malik Neighbors continues to put up the numbers that he's been putting up when he's healthy, he can catch up, but it seems like a 2-horse race right now. Andre says Caleb is creeping up on him. It looks like they're both going to make the playoffs. I think that would be cool. I think it's going to be really tough for the Bears to make the playoffs just because they're not going to win their division, and they would have to be in there. And as good as they are, they're the worst team in their division, which is a crazy thing for me to say because undeniably the Bears are a very, very good team. Right? The Bears are an awesome team. They have one of the best defenses in the league, and Caleb, the way he's improving, continues to be one of the better quarterbacks, the more consistent quarterbacks in this league, especially with the way he's been playing. I am almost 100% sure the Commanders will make the playoffs as long as Jaden stays healthy. But as far as the Bears, I am not convinced. They're going to have to be the 7 seed, if at all, because I think all 3 of those teams will finish ahead of them in the division. And it's not their fault. They just got unlucky with all of those teams being awesome. So I won't say they're a lock, but I think there is a chance. I have much more optimism for the Commanders to make the playoffs than the Bears, but it should be a lot of fun. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we turn our attention to the NBA. It tipped off yesterday. We have preseason power rankings that did not take into account of the games yesterday. So if they're a little off because of that, we'll fix them next week. And we're going to talk about the games that took place yesterday. LeBron and Bronny making history, and the Knicks getting blown out as the Celtics begin their title defense. We'll be right back with all of that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. If you are just tuning in, we just went over our Week 7 rookie report. We had a lot of not great performances from rookie this week, but Drake May had the best performance. Don't look now. Maybe he has a chance at Rookie of the Year if he keeps playing like this. Maybe not, though. He's got an outside shot there. Anyway, in this segment, we turn our attention to the NBA. For the rest of the show, it is an NBA show. Tip-off was last night. We had two games that took place. The title defense began with the Boston Celtics, and of course, LeBron and Bronny made history last night. We also have power rankings. We're going to start off with those. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 23rd. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our preseason power rankings. I know games started yesterday. We did a whole predictions yesterday, so we didn't have time to do power rankings. We'll do these every Wednesday. So we're gonna start off with our power rankings. Andre asks, Anthony Edwards might have to average 30 for the team to win. I think that's completely fair to say if they're going to play like that every single time. I think Julius Randle will get better as he gets, more comfortable with the system. And I don't think Anthony Edwards played his most team-friendly game. I don't like his shot selection, but we'll go into more detail in our next segment once we finish up these power rankings for the Lakers and Timberwolves game. But starting off at number 30 for our preseason NBA power rankings are the Washington Wizards. They are a team that is just atrocious. Top to bottom, that team doesn't have really anything that you can look at and be positive on. This is going to be a year where you say, hey, if they're young guys, their draft picks like an Alex Sarr can show something. If, Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole can show a little bit of improvement, maybe they can be better next year, but they're not competing even for a play-in my opinion. At 29, the Pistons. That you can say basically everything you said about the Wizards and put them with the Pistons. They got a lot more stars, I think, on that team than the Wizards do. A lot more guys that you can more easily project to being great players in the league. Guys like Cade Cunningham over there. I think they made a lot of good moves in the offseason, but I need to see it pan out before I believe in them to do anything at all. Maybe if everything goes right, maybe they can compete for a 10 seed in the East. But I think the 10 seed in the East is going to be a team that wins like 25 games. So that's not really saying much either way. At 28, we have the Nets. The Nets are a team that's just blatantly tanking right there. They're trying to see if Ben Simmons has anything left in him. They got a haul from the Knicks for Mikal Bridges, which so much. And again, we'll get to that later when we get into our next segment. But the Nets are a tanking team. They're going to be at the bottom this year. Really, teams 24 and down, you can pretty clearly expect to be at the bottom. And the Nets are right there with the Wizards and the Pistons. At 27, it's the Trailblazers. They're, in my opinion, the worst team in the West. They have a lot of young guys that, again, maybe could take a step forward, but they're in the same boat as the Wizards, except I don't think they have any play-in upside at all because that Western Conference is so much deeper. This is going to be a race for Cooper Flagg and that number 1 overall pick. 26 is the Jazz. The Jazz continue to, just be fine. I think they might be able to surprise some people. I like some of the guys on their roster. Lauri Markkanen obviously just signed that big contract to stay with the Jazz, so at least they have a couple of guys that are recognizable and a little marketable, but still they're not going to be good this year. Maybe when they get another big draft pick, maybe then they can move forward a little bit in the rankings. 25 is the Hornets. I'm going to move past a lot of these a little quickly. The Hornets rely on injury. Injury luck is going to be the key to their season. Both of their guys, LaMelo Ball especially, are very injury prone. If they can stay healthy, this is a Hornets team that I could see getting to that 6-7 seed possibly. But still, this is not a Hornets team that I think has the ability to stay healthy or is deep enough to survive any injury to any of their main guys. At 24, it's the Bulls. I hated their offseason. Their offseason was awful. Maybe now they can truly tank after, selling everything they had that was valuable. I still think they're going to be slightly better than the worst teams, but I don't believe in this team at all. And it's the same situation for our number 23 team in the Clippers, especially with Kawhi Leonard out indefinitely. I'm going off the assumption he's not going to play at all this season. They don't even have their first-round pick this year, though, if they do bad enough, as a pick swap could happen with the Thunder later on. Again, unprotected right there. That is going to hurt. That is going to hurt them a lot in the future. The Clippers down here at 23. At 22, it's the Hawks, and they got really lucky in the offseason. They ended up with the number 1 overall pick to go besides Trae Young. I thought they made the wrong decision, but maybe they can go out there and prove me wrong. This is a Hawks team that's going to be able to compete for a play-in title, for a play-in spot. But still, I don't think they're going to do anything special this season. Maybe they get a 9-10 seed in the East. At 21, it's the Warriors. And you can yell at me a little bit on this one, but the Warriors are a team that, yes, they have Steph Curry. And as long as Steph Curry is out there, they've got a chance to be a solid team. But outside of Curry, what is there on that team for you to believe in? They got rid of Klay Thompson, which he wasn't really his best anyway last season, but still, they weren't able to make it past the play-in last season. They barely made the play-in, and I think teams in the West got better while they kind of sat on their hands and got maybe even worse. Warriors are here at 21. At 20, it's the Raptors. I liked their offseason a little bit. They went and they locked up a lot of their young guys a couple days ago. Jalen Green. They went out and, also extended Sengun. These are guys that, if they're going to live up to their contracts, are going to be huge for this team and its future. They still have a long ways to go, but I think this is a team that, again, can in a deep West compete for one of those last 2 play-in spots. Excuse me. At 19, it is the Spurs. The Spurs here still have Wembanyama. Love me Wembanyama, and they add a lot of young talent and Chris Paul. That is going to be a huge jump. I think Wemby is a guy that on his own is going to take a jump here. He's a dark horse MVP for me. We talked a little bit about that. The Spurs are a team I look to take a big step forward. And 16, we skipped right ahead there. 18 is the Raptors. I think they're a little bit of a team that, again, in the East could compete for one of those play-in spots. Not something that I'm super high on this team or anything, but they've got guys like Scotty Barnes, some guys that could make some noise as the season continues. 17 is the Kings. I like De'Aaron Fox. I do. I'm a big De'Aaron Fox fan. They bring in DeMar DeRozan. It should help them in the regular season, but again, in a deep West, I'm not sure if they're even going to make the play-in because of how deep that West is. 16 is the Pelicans. You have Zion if he's able to stay healthy. Again, health is a big factor in the NBA with all of these guys. The Pelicans are a team that I want to believe in, but I think they got much worse in the offseason. They don't really have a big that I feel comfortable with, and I don't think Zion can play center for 82 games this year. So the Pelicans are down at 16. Lakers in the preseason, we're at 15. I'm going to have to move them up next week if they keep playing like they did yesterday, because I thought they looked really good. Anthony Davis playing like an MVP caliber player right now, and LeBron James is just doing LeBron James things. He didn't do too much, but what he did, he was very effective at. The three-point shooting, I think JJ Redick is doing a really good job with the Lakers right now. 14 is the Heat. They're down here because I don't trust them in the regular season. I think they'll make the play-in spot, and I think they might make some noise in the playoffs again, but this team just doesn't try in the regular season for some reason, and this is not the season for them to do that. In the East, I think they might get a little too close out of the playoffs for comfort. 13 goes to the Orlando Magic. I really like their moves. I like their defense. They add three-point shooting. This is a team that I think can make a lot of noise. They're a team that I think could be that surprise improved team this year if there's going to be one out of the East. The Pacers sit here at 12. They made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. There's no reason to doubt them. They didn't get any worse. I think Tyrese Halliburton spending time with the Olympic team is really going to help him, actually, even though he didn't really get on the court. Should be a lot of fun for the Pacers this year if their defense can play a little better. The Cavs are here at 11 as we head into the top 10. Andre said Suggs and Paolo, the Magic future is bright. I absolutely agree with that. I love this Magic squad this year. They're the team that I have circled to make the biggest jump in the East. I really do love what the Magic did this offseason. But the Cavs are here at 10. They got a new head coach. I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. Other than that, this team is basically the same. They're going to make it as like a 5-6 seed most likely, and then they're going to burn out in like the second round of the playoffs probably. The Western Conference champions Mavs are at 10, and maybe I'm a little harsh on them, but Klay Thompson addition was their big move of the offseason. I don't think Derek Lively can continue to play at the pace he was at for the playoffs. That was a ridiculous pace. I think this is a good team, and with Luka and Kyrie and Klay there, they should be a threat in the West, but I think the other teams in the West got better than the Mavs did this offseason. The Suns continue at 9. They're a top 10 squad. They're going to be really good in the regular season. There's no reason to doubt that big three that they have, but I am a little bit worried, again, with their depth. I thought they got a little better than last season as far as depth goes, but still, it's not a team that I can rely on to be consistent if anything happens injury-wise. At 8, it's the Grizzlies. That's the other team I think is going to make a big jump. This one in the West, they get Ja Morant back. I'm very high on the Grizzlies right now. This is not the same Grizzlies team that was a top 2 seed 2 years ago, but still, I think there's a lot of those key components are still there, and I think they can make a big run if Ja can stay on the court. The T-Wolves at 7, again, they're probably going to drop after what I saw, but I think that Julius Randle trade for the T-Wolves, it doesn't hurt them that bad. They get a good three-point shooter as well in Dante DiVincenzo, but they need to work on getting those guys better. Julius Randle had an awful game yesterday. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. The 76ers at the 6th spot. Adding Paul George makes them a real big three again. The question is health, though. They're getting investigated already for not playing their players. That's only going to continue. I don't think they're going to be the best team in the regular season, but if they can make it to the postseason healthy, they can make a lot of noise, because then you'll get full Joel Embiid going. 5, it's the Bucks. I really love that duo of Giannis and Dame. I think they'll be better than last season, but they're still not good enough on the back end, defensively especially, to compete with some of these top 4 teams, which I think far and away are the top teams in the NBA. 4 is the Nuggets. Exclusively, I won't say exclusively, but they would still be up here if they only had Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic plus Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, that team is still really good. They lost KCP. They're flirting with the second apron, but still, this is a Nuggets team that you cannot sleep on as long as they have the best player in the world on their roster. At 3, I have the Knicks. We saw them kind of struggle a little bit, but that defense should get better. They're going to get better at playing with each other as the season goes on. There was a lot of big changes there. I think the Knicks are a team that could compete with the Celtics in the East. At 2, it's the Thunder. The Thunder are my pick to win the NBA title this year, but the Celtics, as we saw in the first game, are just a different animal, a different beast. The Thunder, I think, were maybe the most improved team, and they might get a top pick this year as well as win the title, which would be insane. But I cannot wait to see the jump that Shea makes, still young. It's gonna be crazy over in OKC. Andre says the Bucks still stuck with Doc Rivers and the Giannis injury away from being cooked. Absolutely right. Again, that's the issue. This Bucks team is so talented. You have one of the top 3 players in the world in Giannis there, and Dame, even though he's taken a bit of a step back, is, awesome. Especially offensively, right? Chris Middleton being injured already is not a good start, and I don't like Doc Rivers, but this is a Bucks team that, especially in the regular season, I think can make a lot of noise. And that, of course, leaves the number 1 team, the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics, as they showed last night, are just a juggernaut, top to bottom. No matter what you say, this team is great. They weren't even fully healthy. They almost set a record for threes made before they so kindly missed all of the threes down the stretch there. Jason Tatum coming out angry after what happened this summer. I don't want to see a motivated Celtics team. We just saw it last night, though, and that is a scary team going for banner number 19. But let me know what you think. We're going to do this probably every Wednesday, and then we'll get graphics for it as well. Kind of rushed there at the last second. I apologize. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we turn our attention to the 2 NBA games that happened last night. The Celtics demolished the Knicks, and the Lakers got a big win in the coaching debut of JJ Redick, and history with LeBron and Bronny on the court at the same time. We'll talk about all of that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. If you are just tuning in, we just went over our preseason NBA power rankings. In this segment, we finish off our show going over the 2 tip-off games in the NBA. The Celtics absolutely demolishing the Knicks, just absolute in every single fashion of the game. And of course, the Timberwolves losing to the Lakers and history being made over there. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those 2 things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, October 23rd. But like I was saying, in this segment, we're finishing off our show with the NBA action from last night. Starting off with the history that was made as LeBron and his son, Bronny James, made history. The first father-son duo to play together in an NBA game, and that was just a really cool moment. For all of the buzz and the hate that this storyline has generated over the last couple of months since he was drafted for the whole draft process, it was really cool to actually see it happen. I'm happy it did. I still don't like all the media coverage on it. I understand. That Lakers game was really good. Andre, I am a Wizards fan, so I don't have a lot to brag about here. But the way that they played in this game was really encouraging for this season. The Lakers are a team that's aging. They obviously have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who played like the best form of Anthony Davis that we have seen. Right, Anthony Davis is a guy that can play at an MVP level. He just doesn't do it night in and night out because he just doesn't have the body or the health to do that, which is fine. They don't always need him to, but what he was able to do against one of the best defenders in basketball in Rudy Gobert was nothing short of incredible. He led that team, but it wasn't just him. Rui Hachimura got very involved. We got to see the rookie Dalton Knecht really show up with this Lakers team. We saw them get spacing right, draw some plays. This is a massive improvement over what it was last season when we talk about the Lakers coaching, everything that was going on with them as well. This is a huge, huge win for this Lakers team. Again, lots of issues on the other side as well. The Timberwolves probably played one of their worst games in a very, very long time, right? This is as I was talking about with Andre before we started our last segment, this is a team that seems like they're going to need Anthony Edwards to put up 30 points, and he's doing it in the least efficient way possible. You have the ability to shoot the three if he takes a couple steps back. He pulls up with these contested mid-rangers all the time, and he has the talent to make those plays. He has the talent to make that, but it's just not a smart basketball play. Julius Randle needs to step up. That defense needs to play better. They got absolutely dominated on the offensive boards, especially in the paint. Their points in the paint got almost doubled by the Lakers. They're going to be in a whole lot of trouble if they continue to play like this. I don't think missing Cat on defense is that big of the difference there. They need to get together and they need to get back to playing as a team like they were when they were successful in the playoffs. This is, again, it's just night one, so we're not going to make any overarching statements. They're not cooked. They're not done. These are both very good teams that will probably make the playoffs, but there are a lot of issues with the way that the Timberwolves are running, and I really did like the direction that the Lakers were heading in last night. As far as the other game goes, the Celtics versus the Knicks. The Knicks went all in to be the anti-Celtics team, to be the Celtics destroyer, the Celtics specializers. And you saw what they did to them. They were just raining threes for the first 3 quarters of that game. 60% from beyond the line there. It is ridiculous for what they have been able to build in such, I won't say a short time, but how much they've been able to build it up. It's hard to build up a team like that and keep them all there for so long. This is a masterclass in building a basketball team. It's so hard to beat them. The Celtics, when they shoot like that, are literally impossible to beat, and there's nothing you can do. Obviously, there's a lot of issues on the Knicks side. Mikal Bridges didn't look good for the first half of that game. He kind of shaped up a little bit more in the second half, but still a lot of issues. OG Anunoby didn't have a really good shooting night. The Knicks couldn't buy a bucket, and the Celtics couldn't miss, which helps to show the score disparity, but still, this is a Knicks team that is built to stop the Celtics. That's how they were built. And then they get the first test to test out their Celtics destroying unit on night one, opening night of the NBA, and they get absolutely curb stomped. That is not a good look for the team. Again, like I said with the last game, it's just night one. I'm not going to overreact to this, but it's not a good look for the Knicks. They will get better. I really do believe that. They're not going to shoot that poorly in every single game, and most importantly, the Celtics are not going to shoot that good in every single game. But there are going to be games like this when it happens, and it just reminds you that this Celtics team is on a whole nother level than anybody else in the East. There's only one team that I think can even maybe keep pace with them, and that is the Thunder, and no one can keep pace with them when they are shooting the lights out of the building like they did in that game. Jason Tatum playing at an MVP level right there. Yep, that's absolutely right. Jason Tatum, 37 points in the first game. People are once again putting him on the MVP ballot. It's just one game. Again, he played awesome. He really did. He came out with a passion, a fury, a fire that we haven't seen out of him for a while. And a lot of that, I think, comes from, the Olympic team, the quote unquote disrespect that they felt. And they have to, like Andre says, they have to be favorites to win the championship. That's why they were number one on our power rankings, because they got better in this offseason, which is crazy to think because of how dominant they were last year. People were talking about maybe they were the best team in NBA history, right? Last year, and they found a way to get better. Andre asks if I saw the Bridges jump shot. I did. It's bad. I don't know what they're doing over there. He's been a good shooter in the past. I'm gonna trust the NBA coaches to fix him. But he looked a little better in the second half there. The Knicks, like I said, couldn't buy a bucket right there in that game. But really, the Celtics, we saw them at the peak of their powers in this game, and they weren't even at full strength. Kristaps didn't even play. This is a scary, scary team, and it's not one that if they get hot like that, I think anybody in the NBA can beat. But again, just one night. 81 more games to go for almost all of these teams. We got a full slate of NBA tonight. Lots of action to go over. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's show, today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Tomorrow, we go over Thursday Night Football. There are some massive college football games tomorrow with playoff implications. Obviously, the NBA and all of its news. And of course, maybe we touch on the NHL a little bit if we have time as well. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.